He had his gun, so he just swung it open.
I start to notice that, the atmosphere feels a little bit weird.
First thing he seen was this 6.5 foot tall, broad shoulder, dark hair. That freaked him out.
We hadn't talked to her about like life and death and what any of that means. She's 3 years old,
So we turned around. Suddenly there's a whole tree falling across the road.
And she was describing to us that, there was a deceased person that she could see visually.
You're listening to Cryptid Clues, where we tackle the ever-expanding history and mystery of monsters and supernatural madness every Monday. You can find us at CryptidClues.ca for more information, or even check out exclusive content and support us at patreon.com/CryptidClues.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another episode of Cryptid Clues. I am your host, Taylor. I hope so far your 2025 has been going really, really well. I just wanted to quickly highlight and just give my sincere condolences to everyone that's been losing their homes or family members, just dealing with the California fires in Los Angeles. That's something that is very, very common up here in the Okanagan and British Columbia, especially a couple of years back when we had the very, very, very nasty wildfire that just was hitting the side of Okanagan Lake and just spreading out like crazy. So we know what it's like, and it's a very scary thing. So wishing everyone the best of luck down there, and hopefully everything gets squared away and the fire gets put out pronto. A couple of plugs before we get into our main topic today. You can find us online via our website, CryptidClues.ca. You can also reach us directly via CryptidClues@gmail.com. If you are new to the show or returning after the holiday break, we had a good cap off to 2024 with the three-parter series that dives into the latest congressional UFO UAP hearing, the New Jersey sightings, and then some widespread unidentified sightings. And last week we had some Sasquatch encounter stories shared. Now this week we are continuing on the topic of Sasquatch, but with a little bit of a curve. In the past, we've highlighted several different names for Sasquatch. These names often affiliate a creature that shares a baseline resemblance to Sasquatch, but ultimately they have usually different attributes. These attributes could be due to their place of origin or simply the availability of food. It's a mystery, just as Bigfoot is in itself, but I personally prescribe to the theory that it's the one of the surroundings that kind of shape us and these animals. So the first name of the night, Lofa, from Chickasaw legend. The Lofa Chickasaw legend is a story that originates from the Chickasaw Nation, which is one of the American tribes in the southeastern United States, specifically in areas that now comprise of Mississippi, Alabama, and Tennessee. The Chickasaw people have a rich tradition of storytelling, and many of their legends explain the natural world, their culture, and the history of their people. The Lofa legend is often described as a certain myth or tale that's explaining the origins of certain animals. Lofa is a figure, possibly borderline mythical, who plays a role in shaping the world or imparting important lessons to the Chickasaw people. Now, the Chickasaw are an indigenous people of the southeastern woodlands, United States. Like I mentioned before, their territory was in northern Mississippi, northwestern and northern Alabama, western Tennessee, southwestern Kentucky. Now, first contact with Europeans was back in the mid-1500s. Now, revered in ancient times, and I quote, "As Spartans of the lower Mississippi Valley," end quote, I'm going to cite part of a Chickasaw legend now that mentions a smelly, hairy being that could speak. And I quote, "One day, a number of men went hunting and camped a considerable distance from home. Afterward, they scattered to see what they could find, but remained within call of one another, having made an agreement that if anything happened to one of them, he should shout out for help. But one of them ventured farther than he was aware and got a long distance off. Presently, he got tired and sat down to rest, but while he was there, a Lofa came up and said, 'What are you doing here? You are intruding upon my land and had better get up and return to your own place.' But the man believed himself to be strong enough for any situation, so he sat still without speaking. Presently, the Lofa ordered him off again and added, 'If you do not get up and go away, I will tie you up and carry you to my place.' "You may do so if you can," the man replied, and upon this, the lofa seized him. Now, at first, it seemed as if the man were the stronger of the two, and he was able to throw the lofa down. But the latter smelled so bad that it was too much for the antagonist, and the lofa overcame him, hung him up in a tree, and went away. The man hung there all night, and when he did not make his appearance at camp, that's when the other hunters began to search for him. And, when they found him, cut the grapevine by which he was fastened so that he fell to the ground. They asked him what had treated him in this manner, but he would not speak, and they thought he might have seen a ghost or something of that sort. Some time later, however, he came to himself and related what had happened. Afterwards, though, he was very fond of hunting and knew that he would be successful. He would not venture out unless someone were with him. End quote. Our next bipedal Bigfoot is called the Nakani. Now, this creature hails from a place that we actually did a full in-depth episode on ages ago, the Nahanni Valley, located near the junction of British Columbia, Yukon, and Northwest Territories. Now, this valley has gained a considerable reputation for paranormal and creatures and mysterious tales alike, a lot of folklore. But in regards to these wild hairy men, one of the first frontiersmen to write about them was Father Emile Beditot, who was a 19th century Oblate missionary who lived among the Slavey and Satudene of the North Country's two Great Lakes. In 1876, Father Emile he wrote out a fear that spread among the Indians each summer like an epidemic. And I quote, "They live at times in continual terror of an imaginary enemy who pursues them without rest and who believes to see everywhere even though he doesn't exist at all." End quote. Now, belief in the Nakani was strong among the Slavey, Dogrib, and Satudene as late as 1929. When they suspected that a Nakani was lurking nearby, entire Dene bands would often abandon their camps and seek shelter on a nearby lake island, secure in the belief that their pursuer, for one reason or another, was unable to cross over to their new campsite from the shore. On other occasions, according to a Hudson's Bay Company trader named John Firth, entire encampments would instead stand their ground and fire their muskets into the forest at superstitious wanderers in the night. Now, the surrounding areas and tribes all had different names for these creatures. While Nakani was used in the valley, to the north, Mahoney was used. The Yukon River folks called them Nakintla, and southwest of Alaska, they were called Nantina. Descriptions of the Nakani vary, but most 19th and 20th century frontiersmen who wrote about them, they all had an impression from the Dene that they were hairy, cannibalistic giants, vaguely human in appearance with red eyes and long muscular arms. Their tremendous size was attested by the 3-foot-long human-like footprints that they left in their wake, as well as their alleged ability to tear entire birch trees from the earth with their bare hands, roots and all. Well, troglodytes was a term that was used twice the size of ordinary humans. Now, troglodytes was a term that was used to describe these things. Twice the size of ordinary humans, who went about naked save for a coating of evil-smelling hair. The tracks were man-like in appearance, yet much longer and narrower. In some accounts, their big toes stood out from the remaining 4. Although their footprints never bore any nail marks, some said that the Nakani's fingers were tipped with long nail-like claws. Our next hairy hominid is the Matakagmi. Now, it's funny how we always end up back at Mount Shasta. We've done a few episodes focusing on this hotspot, and just like the Nahanni Valley, there is a lot of paranormal, mysterious things going on here. It's just emanating out of this mountain, just the energy, and it's so mystical. It's a place that my mom went to go on a energetical retreat and just kind of do some soul searching, and she had a good time there. But it is located at the southern end of the Cascade Mountain Range in California, a region that has been involved with many Sasquatch sightings. Native Americans that reside in these areas tell stories about creatures that are friendly in trade. The Matakagmi, reportedly 8 to 10 feet tall, covered in coarse brown hair, brown eyes, and have a musky odor. There is only one story that I could find, and this is dating back to 1897, again in the Mount Shasta area. And I quote, "During the summer, a local native recounts a tale of when he first went fishing and caught a number of fish that he stringed together for the journey home. As he walked along a deer trail at about dusk, he saw something ahead that looked like a tall bush. As he got closer, he became aware of a strong odor. He then realized that the bush was in fact a creature covered with coarse hair. Much like horsehair, when it made an unusual sound, the man knew it was one of those creatures that he had heard of from the old ones. He observed it more closely and clearly saw two soft brown eyes through the hair. When it made a slight movement, the man made a motion of friendship and laid down his string of fish. The creature snatched up the gift and made off immediately into the woods. Then it stopped for a moment and made a long, low sound, which the man never forgot. A few weeks later, the man was awakened by strange noises outside his cabin. Upon investigation, he found a stack of deer skins ready for tanning. Then off in the distance, he heard the low, long sound that he remembered from his earlier encounter. As time went on, he received further gifts, such as wood for fuel, wild berries, and fruits. A few years later, the man took a job as a guide for some men looking for treasure. The men had a map indicating a spot on Mount Shasta. When the group reached the foot of Shasta, the men started drinking. So the guide went ahead alone to explore some of the lower rock shelves. During this process, he was struck by a timber rattle. Now, he headed back toward the group but fainted on the way. When he came to, he found himself in the company of 3 large hairy creatures, 8 to 10 feet tall. They had made a small cut in the area of the guide's snakebite, removed some of the venom, and placed cool moss on the wound. The creatures then carried their patient down the mountainside and placed him under a low bushy tree. And as they left, the guide heard their familiar cry. The guide then used his pistol to signal to the other men and was thereupon to take to the nearest town for treatment. For many years thereafter, the guide occasionally heard the creatures distinctively cry after sundown. Now, the guy related that the creatures were not vicious, but were very shy, especially of people. And they generally came out only in the evenings and at night. Now, they lived chiefly on berry and roots that they had dug, and their only meat eating in the bitterest of cold weather. The homes were deep mountainside burrows, unknown to man. End quote. This is just a scratch on the surface of all the different names for Bigfoot that exist out there. And this is an interesting concept, too, where if you befriend them or you give them gifts, then you will receive things in return. And there's many people that have, whether it's by accident or by choice, they've given things to a Sasquatch nearby, and then they are met with things in return. Sometimes it could be little animals, sometimes it could be other things like wood. And there's a story that I had read where this guy was out camping on his tent on this little hill, and he put some food out, and all of a sudden he started hearing things outside. Then the next day there was a big stack of firewood. So he was contemplating the fact that, hey, whatever was out there was watching me cut up some firewood to throw on the fire. And so, having left some food out, it took it and decided to help out. It's a very nice, humbling sort of thing, just that cooperation factor instead. Well, there are some very nasty Bigfoot reports as well. They can be quite scary. It's nice to see the nice stories in there. So, the different names that exist out there, the list goes on and on and on. Well, Bigfoot is one of the most commons. We have Larian, Box, Zanuqua. That's just to name a few. The list, like I said, it's a very long list. And while they may all be called different things based on culture or territory, it is that territory that makes them all so unique. The conditions in which they grow and adapt to play such a large factor in their attributes. So many reports come in that will detail different heads, faces, height, hair length, and even the muscles. As in big and brawly versus skinny and scrawny. There's so many different things depending on where these things really reside from, and I kind of see them as all cousins, so to speak. I don't think I'm the only one either. I think that's a term that's kind of tossed around quite a bit. When the day finally comes that a body or DNA presents itself, well, that would be quite something to see if all these different Sasquatch species were related genetically. Of course, that would imply we have DNA and or a body of another species of Bigfoot as well to cross-reference and match. I guess technically we could use ourselves, and we could see if maybe that we share some genetic connection, but I digress. It's a big if, getting that body. But there are three theories that I want to highlight here, and maybe more like explanations, I suppose, that they could be. The hominid theory. Now, some Sasquatch sightings are explained as being the result of undiscovered ancient hominids that once lived alongside early humans. These hominids could include Neanderthals, Gigantopithecus, which is the extinct ape, or other primate species that might have survived in isolated pockets of North America. Very plausible. Or, number two, interdimensional or supernatural theory. Some Sasquatch researchers and enthusiasts believe Sasquatch may not be a physical creature at all, but could be an interdimensional being or spirit that exists in another realm or dimension and only appear briefly in our world. Now, we've interviewed Ron Moorhead. We had him on the show, and that was a great discussion with me and Reuben and him. I definitely recommend go checking that out. It's on our feeds, it's on our YouTube. You can find it, and it's very informative. He is someone who stands behind the interdimensional, the quantum Bigfoot is his book, and there's a lot of fascinating information to be found there. Our third theory here is called cryptid and evolutionary. Now, many cryptozoologists speculate that Sasquatch could be an undiscovered species of primate, possibly an offshoot of the great apes like orangutans or a remnant population of larger, more primitive hominids. And this is something I would definitely prescribe to, because when you look at what we have in the oceans, there's lots of species that we're just discovering daily. And with our forests, we've been through most of them, but there is a lot of forests still in North America that, it's not always easy to find what you're looking for. I use this example a lot, but you're driving down a highway in British Columbia and you got woods on the left, woods on the right. You look out to the side of that road, you're not going to see 5 feet into that tree line. It's just so thick. It's a perfect place for something to hide, especially something large. With such a diverse set of reports, legends, and theories surrounding not just one single species of Sasquatch, but again, a wide range of them, it really allows us to explore different descriptions, their varying behavior, and of course, some good and some bad. And while we don't have a concrete piece of evidence yet, we certainly have a foundation to grow and learn from when it comes to Sasquatch. The behavior, like I mentioned, and just the factor of just different environments. That one story that we were talking about where the Sasquatch put some moss down and helped relieve and fix the gentleman's snake bite. North America has a rich amount of shrubbery and greenery and medicinal herbs that are accessible out there. And me and Reuben did a in-depth discussion about this, that there are lots of herbs out there that you can harvest yourself, and there are many things out in North America where it's prime. They're just growing everywhere. And so if you're dealing with an animal that displays that level of intelligence, and just animals that just know this stuff by living out in the wild in the animal kingdom, and after, they'll eat these, they hurt my stomach, I'm not going to eat those, we'll eat these, they're good, okay. I think that there is a line of repetition and a form to this where, it's that memory factor. I know that this is going to soothe my pain. I know that this will agitate my pain. This will help make it better. And that's something that they were applying to this person in that story. And so that's why I think when you're dealing with Bigfoot in North America is just so rich on these. Well, the point I'm trying to get at is here, what about herbs that exist in other parts of the world? That could yield the same results, but they're different types of herbs. They got to be harvested in different ways. And then you're dealing with just a whole different setup and format altogether with someone that, or a Bigfoot that necessarily isn't going to grab a tree and pull it out of the ground, flip it upside down, or tear it open. Maybe you're dealing with a skunk ape, which is a little more scrawny, but knows that the herbs that it needs to feel better are underneath the water, and it has to bend down gently and pull them out of the water with its long arms. I don't know. Just a thought. You grow in different areas, and you get accustomed to those different areas, and you evolve and grow from that, and that evolution can benefit you. But I digress. Thank you for tuning into this week's episode of Cryptid Clues. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm playing around with some concepts for next week's episode. I'm out of the office going on some traveling here, and so I'm going to be dangling between maybe 2, maybe 3 different topics that I'm torn on for what I want to do for the next episode, but we'll see how it goes when we get to it. Remember, you can find us online via CryptidClues.ca, and should you wish to reach us directly, you can do so at CryptidClues@gmail.com. So until next time, everyone, take care and stay safe.
Bye.